Okay, it is 5:32. The Economic Development Committee meeting is now ready to begin. So, Kathy, the City of Lawrence clerk, can you read us the resolution in question, please?
It's Resolution number 7, 2020, a resolution of the Lawrence Common Council approving and amending declaratory resolution of the Redevelopment Commission.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to ask the Lawrence Controller, Jason Fenwick, if he can give us an overview, which hopefully will include some background information and some detail. Welcome to the podium, Controller.
Thank you, and thank you for your time this evening. I also have Tom John, who's a partner with Ice Miller, with me as well, and I'm going to let him kind of introduce what we're trying to accomplish here with this resolution, and then when he's done, I'll come back and talk specifically about the economic benefits that this will create. So I'm going to hand it over to Tom first.
Thank you. And Madam Chairwoman, this is a amendment of the governing documents of the Pike Development District. And really, at the end of the day, this is authorizing the type of project that we're undertaking and that Lawrence has been working on since 2017 with regard to the Lawrence Trades District, which is that area just north of Pendleton Pike and east of 465. And in particular, which we'll get to in a moment, the anchor project that we've been working on, which is the development of, or the moving of Freegee headquarters there. So basically, the change we are making boils down to Exhibit A of the resolution. And it is, the current documents do not provide for the types of work and the types of investments that we would make in that area to improve infrastructure, to be able to attract people to bring in jobs into this area. So this is very broad. It's not specific to one project. Rather, it is meant to be a overall governing highlight under which we will authorize various projects in the coming years in order to bring this project to fruition. So that's why it's so broad. It says various infrastructure upgrades and site preparation projects to effectuate the creation of Lawrence Trades District, including enhancement and rerouting of roads and other infrastructure, site preparation for new business creation, and other necessary improvements. $10 million. To be honest, that number is a number that was big enough to provide for the authorizations that we might need in order to undertake projects, but has no specific spending attached to it right now, insofar as it's much bigger than any given project on the table. But it prevents you from having to come back through this process every time we do a new project, and rather you'll be authorizing the projects in their part rather than having to come back and first authorize the governing documents and then authorize the project, if that makes sense. To that note, this process, just for familiarity purposes, is the statutory process for this to happen is we have a resolution of the Redevelopment Commission. That's what's been passed previously and is before you. After they adopt that and it is adopted by the council, then there's notice. And then finally, the Redevelopment Commission will hold a hearing, and which point then it adopts it and it becomes a part of the organic documents of the Pike Development District. And like I said, that then just it enlarges the Development District documents to provide us the power to undertake these types of projects in the future. So, and I will just as an editorial comment say, the mayor shared with me a listing for a spec distribution center, and it's over generally, if you all know the area, right behind Menards there, that Browning has listed that they're looking to build a 127,000 square foot mid-sized distribution center, and in the property highlights, they say City of Lawrence Trades District area. And I note that from the point of this commitment and what we're doing as a community to commit to this project in this area and the infrastructure of this area has benefits even outside of the TIF that we're operating in. Now, in this case, it's benefiting Indianapolis, to be honest, but those benefits will carry throughout our community too. And it really shows that the work you're doing to begin setting this up, and of which this is a part, is already having an effect, even though we've not put a spade in the ground. Then finally, you will have at some point, and I can give you more detail if you want, but the immediate item that this will provide for you to have an authorization with soon is we finally believe that we have I won't say complete deal, but we have everything worked out to where the Freegee project will be moving forward. And we're optimistic about the deal that's been put together with respect to that it's going to be good for the entire area. It's going to be good for Freegee, Mill Supply, and Lawrence. And hopefully that will be going before the MDC in July, and we will have other things to report later. I can give you more details, but that's the immediate urgency to having the resolution passed for the TIF so that those funds can begin to be used in that project immediately.
Tom, can you talk a little specifically about the Freegee project and what, and generally in terms of investment and jobs that would bring if it does come to fruition?
And many of you have been apprised that it's been in the works for a while, but in recent weeks, we've continued to negotiate. This project will involve us giving the four parcels that the city has held that were really parcels that we had taken to abate a nuisance originally. And those projects will be given to Freegee. Freegee's going to bring a headquarters here. It's going to commit to at least 120, we believe as many as 170 employees with an average wage of $30 an hour. And we will also, they've committed, at one point they had committed to $4 million. We've gotten them up to $6 million in investment committed. We actually believe to do everything that they're talking about doing, they're going to do more. At the same time, we are upgrading the infrastructure in the area by vacating Plummer Street and essentially creating a North Plummer Street that will be new infrastructure in the area and facilitate movement throughout that area for the companies in that area. And all of this we will have about a $600,000 investment with respect to Freegee and about an $80,000 investment with respect to Mill Supply on top of the land. So we feel like that will be a positive outcome that you'll begin to see the money coming into the TIF in future years very quickly. And one thing I'll note is with regard to the way we've structured the deal, the money shouldn't come out of our TIFs until substantial completion of the project, meaning till they figure it out, we don't have to pay. And then a second half of the payment actually doesn't hit until 2023, which allows us to begin realizing the benefits of the project before we actually have completely put our share into it.
And I would also add that in addition to the jobs and being a catalyst, kind of anchor for the trades district, as Tom mentioned, this will, we think, generate roughly $200,000 of additional increment to the TIF, which right now would almost be rounding up an almost 50% increase, which will then allow us to do even more in this area to further build out the trades district. So to me, it's a home run of a deal given the incentives that the RDC would be providing. The payback on that's probably worst case scenario 4 years, which to me is a heck of an investment, giving, again, the jobs we will create, the catalyst for the trades district, and then the additional increment over the years that we can hopefully further use to build out this area. So from my perspective, given the funding at the RDC, this is a slam dunk of a deal to do from an economic standpoint. So just wanted to add that.
Are there any questions on that?
Yes, I'm sure we have some questions, so thank you so much for the overview and the background. So let's open it up for questions. I have a couple. Would you like for me to start? If you don't mind, if I can jump in? So my first question to either one of you to answer is, if you could go back over, because I was trying to write down the financial numbers, but if you could go back over the financial impact if we recommend to vote to pass this resolution. And second part of that question is, what is the financial impact if we do not recommend for this to be passed as a resolution? So I was trying to get an idea of those numbers.
Do you mean the jobs and salary commitment from the development, or are you talking impact to TIF?
Well, I guess I'm talking a little bit in regards to the TIF program. This is Pendleton Pike, the redevelopment TIF program. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how much are we in the TIF now annually? How much funds are there now? And how much will this increase the funds? And numbers like that.
So right now, our TIF, the Pendleton Pike TIF generates about, being conservative, about $460,000 a year. As of the end of 2019, the TIF had a cash balance of just under $1.4 million that was unencumbered, so there were no obligations on that cash balance. The incentives pardon me. The incentives that the TIF would provide on this, as Tom mentioned, the first payment, there's two portions, a $600,000 portion and an $80,000. The $80,000, if this deal gets done this year, will go out the door this year. The $600,000 would be split into two payments. The first would be once they have their certificate of occupancy, and then the second one would be in 2023, which we also think is when their first increment would come online. So really, we're only coming out of pocket for that first payment when they have the certificate of occupancy, because between their increment and that second incentive, it's almost a wash. But conservatively, over a 10-year period, we think the increment could easily be at least $2 million. So I think from a redevelopment cash balance perspective, I have a number in mind that I don't want the funds to dip below, and we don't even come close to that with this deal. And so I think this is going to be tremendously beneficial to the TIF, because we've already noticed that there is a potential project across the street that's being marketed as the Lawrence Trades District, and we hope once this is done, you'll see more of those in that area, which will then create further increment. So hopefully that answered the question, but I think from a TIF fund perspective, it was waiting for a project like this to fund.
Okay, so this is one of our top priority projects in that redevelopment area.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does any other counselors have any questions?
I have a housekeeping question, Madam Chair, if that's all right.
Yes, please, Chris.
I don't think the redevelopment commission's resolution as signed it wasn't circulated with this agenda. So when Tom was talking about the attachment, I don't know, I want to make sure the counselors have it, and I want to make sure what got passed was what was previously circulated, which was an unsigned version of that resolution. So just want to make sure we're all still talking about the same thing and we get the right document attached to the council resolution. Because at the point it was first circulated, the RDC, I think, hadn't met yet. Or is that happening after? I'm trying to remember the statute off the top of my head. Does that happen after the hearing? Does it get signed then, or I just want to make sure we got our ducks in a row?
I'm sorry, what was your question, Chris?
Has the RDC resolution been signed? Is it the same version that was circulated unsigned to the council?
The RDC resolution was signed on May 26th.
Okay, but all I'm saying is I don't know if we ever saw the signed resolution, Kathy, and it wasn't in your agenda packet.
I'm sorry, I thought I had
is
sent
the
it.
resolution of the council, not the RDC resolution. So I just want to make sure, for housekeeping purposes, that the signed resolution is included.
Yeah, I have it
and that
right here.
nothing changed from what was circulated. That's all.
I can, if we have a break between now and 6:30, I can scan it and email it out real quick.
That'd be great. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions?
I thought I sent.
What is
You may have, Kathy, it just wasn't in our agenda packet. You may have sent
Okay.
it separately.
I'll just resend it.
Counselor Freeman?
Yes, what is the exact address of that, where they're thinking about putting that at? I know it's behind Menards, but what's the exact address? I know you said there was 4 parcels.
Well, okay, just so I'm not confusing. I was referring to behind Menards, which was a spec development that Browning is doing that's nothing to do with us. And
Okay,
so our parcels that we're working with so that's south of Pendleton Pike. Our parcels we're working with are north of Pendleton Pike and literally just east of the entrance on the north entrance on the 465 off of Pendleton Pike.
do you have the local 7-digit parcels handy, or?
Not
I don't think I do.
to be honest.
No, no.
Could look it up if you want.
We can get those before the council meeting.
Okay.
Okay. It sounds like Counselor Rosa Morph has a question, but she is on mute, and she is we cannot hear you, Counselor.
Okay, I think I got it. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Thank you. I have one question. I'm looking at a map of the redevelopment area, and I see that Plummer Street is indicated, and you said you would be vacating that to allow for the Freegee development. Is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that the development, although I don't have any parcel numbers, as Councilor Freeman indicated, on this map, it appears that if the Plummer Street is vacated, that is behind or north of the current PT's show club. Is that correct? Or is it further to the west of that
PT's
area?
is way east of there. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's not near there.
Yeah, it's Plummer's only being vacated on the 4
Oh, yeah.
parcels.
It's a 1-block vacation. Maybe that's what, I apologize. Yeah, 1 block
Is
of
that close?
Plummer will actually be vacated.
Is that closer to Sellers Street then?
Yeah, in fact, exactly west of Sellers. Plummer will be vacated from west of Sellers to its terminus. Well, to the new northbound Plummer, or whatever you call it when it's said and done.
And one other question. You said there would be additional jobs generated by the Freegee development.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I missed the number. And what starting salaries? Do you have any indicator on those?
I do not
For the
know
jobs?
starting salaries. I know the average salary is $30 an hour. And they've committed to 120 jobs, but we believe that the number will be closer to 170.
Can I ask one more? I'm sorry. Breaking ground for Free G's anticipated end of 2020 or maybe 2021? Or do you have any indication since they're getting ready to go to the Plan Commission soon?
I think it will be as soon as possible. They are in a their current facility. They're in a holdover situation, and so they'd like to be here as soon as possible. You know, it's hard to say with winter conditions and COVID conditions and everything else what it would look like, but I would not be surprised to see them break ground even in the Q3, assuming all approvals and everything could get done.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you for those questions. I would like to ask Councilor Giles if he has any comments. I know this is in your district and that you are very involved. So I wanted to hear any opinion or anything that you want to make in regards before we take our vote.
All right. I would thank you. I think I'm unmuted there. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. I am very much in support of it. I mean, we have very few areas in the city that have the right zoning that are correct for business to grow and for our city to grow. So when we do have an opportunity for that, if I don't see any significant hindrance to the residents or the people in that area, I'm very supportive of it. And I haven't seen anything in this project. The question I do have is one, the jobs, just as a little question here, is I do appreciate the numbers that you gave, but was there any numbers on new jobs that are created because of this expansion?
Good question.
We've not had specific numbers on that.
But they are new jobs to Lawrence.
They're new to Lawrence. I'm not sure how many will be new as in somebody's being hired versus coming here from Fishers. But obviously the hope over time is they're building a new state-of-the-art for their industry facility, and the intent is to grow. And, you know, they're even acquiring property outside of what we're acquiring, of what we are incenting them with an eye towards ensuring that they have room to grow.
Well, and also, too, you said something that wasn't at the top of my mind. I think it's good for the people to know. They are moving from Hamilton. Is that correct? They're moving from Hamilton County into Marion County in the city of Lawrence.
That's correct.
All right. Not too often we get to take them the other way, so that's a win.
Exactly.
That's good. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I have one more. What type of jobs are these and what qualifications are needed to apply for these jobs?
It's I don't know if you want to speak.
Go ahead.
So it's effectively building trades and engineering industry. So you'll have building trades, skilled labor type, and then obviously it's a corporate headquarters. So you'll have, I would say, leadership and admin positions in addition to that. And that's one of the visions. If you know, reminding back to the Lawrence Trades District plan, is one of the pieces here is we have some great assets in our Lawrence schools as far as training for trades and other things, and that this is the keystone really to the Trades District to allow us to really begin to build that out and to begin bringing these businesses in that can employ kids that are coming out of our schools that have taken advantage of these assets that we have to employ them right here rather than them going someplace else to get a job. And so I think that's one of the reasons it's ideally situated for this. And our hope is then it's going to bring a lot more of these types of companies as we prove the model.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we call for a vote? All right, then. Let's call for a vote for us moving forward from the Economic Development Committee to make a recommendation that the full council pass this resolution.
I'd like to go ahead and make a resolution to recommend it to full council for approval.
Okay, second.
Second?
Thank you. Do we need to, Kathy, are you going to do a roll call
Yes.
or just make the Yes,
You
please.
have to
Thank
do a roll
you.
call for Zoom meetings. Counselor Freeman,
Yes.
Counselor Giles,
Aye.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
you'll recommend do pass the full council.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Thank you for our guests. Thank you very much for that information, and the meeting's adjourned.
Thanks.